Ratcheting combination wrenches can save a huge amount of time, so the question is, which ratcheting combination wrench brand is the best? Well, let's find out. In the first test, we'll see which wrench does the best job of gripping a rusty bolt. Then we'll test the open end for maximum gripping strength. We'll test the failure load for both ends of the wrench. At a price of $20 for 5 wrenches, or only $4 each, the least expensive brand we'll be testing is made by GearWrench. We'll be testing the half-inch size wrench for each of the brands. Off-corner loading design reduces faster rounding. 72 teeth for a 5-degree arc swing. The GearWrench is made in China, and the GearWrench weighs 96.2 grams. I put together this next tester to measure the working arc swing of each of the wrenches working within a 40-degree space. So let's see how many left to right swings it takes to complete a full 360-degree circle. And the GearWrench has about 15 degrees of slop, which is really hurting the performance of the wrench. 25.5 back and forth passes to make one complete circle. At a price of $80 for a set of 12 wrenches, or $6.50 each, is this Olsa brand 100-tooth ratcheting wrench set. Extracts up to an 80% rounded bolt. They claim that their wrenches are made of premium unbreakable steel. We're going to test that. The Olsa wrenches are made in Taiwan. And the Olsa Tools wrench weighs 103.2 grams. And the Olsa has even more slop than the GearWrench. It has around 17 degrees of motion before the ratchet is even turning the tester. 27 back and forth passes for one complete circle. At a price of $9 is this Jetech brand. 12-pointed box end provides a more precise and exact fit. Off-corner design distributes force on the round, but not the corners. The Jetech is made in China. The Jetech weighs 101.9 grams. And the Jetech is only making about 11 to 12 degrees of progress with each pass. And the Jetech really struggles and moves into last place at 33.5 back and forth passes. At a price of $10, or just one more dollar than the Jetech, is this Jaeger brand. The ratcheting system has 72 teeth. It claims to have an arc swing of just 5 degrees. The Jaeger is made in China. The Jaeger weighs 99.5 grams. And the Jaeger has quite a bit of slop and seems to be about the same as the GearWrench. And the Jaeger barely edges out the GearWrench at 25 passes, or just a half a stroke better than the GearWrench. At a price of $15 is this Tekton brand. 6-point box end snugly fits the hex-shaped fastener heads and resists slipping off. Includes a 72-tooth ratchet gear, which only needs a 5-degree arc swing. The Tekton wrench is made in Taiwan. And the Tekton weighs right at 100 grams. And the Tekton is making about 20 degrees of progress with each stroke and is doing by far the best yet. 18 back and forth passes to take the lead from the Jaeger. At a price of $16, just $1 more than the Tekton, is this DeWalt brand. The DeWalt has 72 teeth, providing a 5-degree arc swing. Uses direct torque technology, which helps prevent rounding of fasteners. The DeWalt wrench is made in Taiwan. And the DeWalt weighs 92.1 grams. And the DeWalt has quite a bit more slop compared to the Tekton. However, 24 passes is good enough to move into second place or 6 strokes behind the Tekton. At a price of $17, is this Craftsman brand. 15-degree box end offset for additional knuckle clearance. Includes a 72-tooth ratcheting box end for access in tight spaces. The Craftsman is made in Taiwan. And the Craftsman is relatively light at 90 grams. And the Craftsman has about the same amount of slop as the DeWalt. And the Craftsman completed the circle in 24 back and forth passes. At a price of $20 is this Williams brand. The box end includes 12 points of contact. In order to switch directions with the other wrenches, you have to flip the wrench over, but with the Williams, you just use a directional lever to change directions. Recessed corners and ends provides extra turning power. The Williams is on the bottom and the Craftsman is on the top. And the Williams has a 15-degree angle to allow for knuckle clearance. The Craftsman doesn't have a directional switch, so you'll have to turn the wrench over in order to change directions. The Williams wrench is made in Taiwan. The Williams weighs 97.1 grams. And the Williams has even more slop than the Craftsman and the DeWalt. And it took 28 back and forth passes for one complete rotation. Also the price of $20, the same price as the Williams, is this Capri Tools wrench. 72-tooth, 6-point reversible ratcheting wrench. The box end has a 15-degree offset for knuckle clearance when working in a tight spot. The Capri Tools is made in Taiwan. And the Capri wrench is by far the heaviest yet at 117.5 grams. And the Capri Tools seems to be performing about as well as the Tekton at around 20 degrees of progress with each stroke. And the Capri Tools completes the full circle in 18 passes and moves into a 2-way tie with the Tekton. At a price of $22 is this Greenlee brand. The Greenlee has a reversible switch and also allows for a 15-degree offset on the box end for clearance of obstacles. Greenlee claims that the wrench has a 5-degree arc swing. The Greenlee is made in Taiwan. The Greenlee weighs 101.9 grams. And the Greenlee has more slop than the Capri Tools. 22 back and forth passes for one complete circle. At a price of $23 is this Wera Joker 6000. Practical holding function thanks to a metal plate in the jaw. The double hex geometry reduces the risk of slipping. Most of the ratcheting mechanisms we'll be testing have 72 teeth, but the Wera has 80. The Wera is made in the Czech Republic. And the Wera weighs 100.9 grams. And the Wera's 80-tooth ratcheting mechanism is a lot more efficient than the other brands, making over 20 degrees of progress with each stroke. Only 16 back and forth passes that take the lead from the Tekton and the Capri Tools. At a price of $26 is this Proto brand. The Proto is a 12-point with a reversing lever designed for quick one-hand operation. The Proto is made in Taiwan. The Proto is pretty light at 85.6 grams. And the Proto is performing better than average, but not quite as efficiently as the Wera. 18.7 passes is good enough to move into 4th place. At a price of $39 is this Blue Point brand, which is sold by Snap-on. 15-degree offset box head provides extra knuckle clearance. 4.5-degree gear engagement means less movement to engage the next gear. Ratcheting box is reversible. Box end features a flank drive wrenching configuration for greater torque with less applied force. The Blue Point is made in Taiwan, and the Blue Point weighs 99.1 grams. Unfortunately, the high-cost Blue Point wrench really struggled in this test with 27 back and forth passes for one complete circle. At a price of $66, the most expensive wrench we'll be testing is made by SK. SK claims their wrench has the lowest arc swing in the industry at only 1.7 degrees. It offers 216 positions with the 6 pawls to engage in tight spaces. The SK is made in USA, and the SK wrench is by far the heaviest yet at 123.7 grams. And the SK claims to have a 1.7 degree arc swing, and it's making well over 20 degrees of progress with each stroke. And the SK moves into the lead with only 15.3 back and forth passes for the win. Very impressive. Ratcheting efficiency can save a huge amount of time when working in tight spaces, and the SK is the best at 15.3 back and forth passes. The Wera finished in second at 16 passes, Tekton and Capri Tools 18 passes. Before moving on to the next test, I used a 1/2-inch Allen key, which is right at 1/2 inch, along with the dial indicator to measure the back and forth slop for the open end of the wrench. If you're working in a tight space, slop can really hurt the efficiency, and a loose fit may also hurt the grip. At 6 inches from the base of the wrench, the Wera has the least amount of up and down travel on the open end of the wrench at 0.14 inches. The Blue Point finished in second at 0.32, GearWrench 0.36, and Williams 0.37 inches. The Proto uses an off-corner loading design, but that causes a lot of excess back and forth unloaded travel. A ratchet with a lot of back drag can really make removing and installing a fastener in a tight space quite a bit of a challenge. If there's enough space, sometimes you can apply some finger pressure to allow the ratcheting mechanism to advance. I'll be using a socket, a fishing line, and a scale to measure the back drag. And the GearWrench performed extremely well in this test with very little back drag at only 109 grams. And the Olsa is extremely stiff and has a lot of back drag at 743 grams or over 1.5 pounds. And the Jetech has even more back drag than the Olsa at 772 grams, which is definitely way too much to work efficiently. And the Jaeger moves into second place behind the GearWrench at 580 grams, which is still quite a bit of back drag. And the Tekton just took second place away from the Jaeger at 394 grams, or just about 200 grams better. And the DeWalt has almost as much back drag as the Olsa and the Jetech at 696 grams. And the Craftsman performed about the same as the Jaeger at 549 grams. And the Williams has the second best back drag performance yet at only 289 grams. And the Capri Tools performed even better than the Williams at only 237 grams. Considering the high price of $22, the Greenlee really struggled on this test at 601 grams. And the Wera performed better than average at 408 grams, which is good enough to move into 5th place. And the Proto really struggled in this test with quite a bit of back drag at 647 grams. And the Blue Point performed about the same as the Wera at 415 grams of back drag. And the SK performed quite a bit better than average at only 288 grams of back drag. So the GearWrench came out on top at 109 grams. Capri Tools finished in second at 237, SK 288, and Williams 289 grams of back drag. Let's see which wrench performs the best on a rusty fastener. I removed the zinc plating on all the fasteners, and the bolts have around 100 treatments of very aggressive rusting agent. If you live in the Rust Belt, you've probably seen bolts that look just as bad as this or even worse. To make this test more realistic, I'll reduce the contact area of the wrench by adding a washer between the fastener and the wrench. I've done some testing, and these grade 8 bolts typically break around 660 inch-pounds. And the 12-point GearWrench performed well, making it to 586.8 inch-pounds before losing grip. And the Olsa Tools is a 6-point and easily outlasted the bolt at 668 inch-pounds. And the 12-point Jetech gave up pretty early at 475 inch-pounds, or about 200 inch-pounds less than the Olsa. And the Jaeger performed very well, making it to 605 inch-pounds before losing grip. And the Tekton performed the best yet at 793.8 inch-pounds, and I'm quite surprised that the bolt withstood that much torque. And the DeWalt made it to 666.4 inch-pounds, which is good enough to move into 3rd place behind the Olsa. And the 12-point Craftsman rounded the bolt at 691 inch-pounds, which is good enough to move into 2nd place. And the 12-point Williams gave up a little bit sooner than average at 447.7 inch-pounds. And the taper on the 6-point Capri Tools ratchet seemed to keep it from staying on the bolt, 529.8 inch-pounds. And the 12-point Greenlee performed almost as well as the Capri Tools wrench at 523 inch-pounds. And the 12-point Wera seems very well designed with a very snug fit and very little taper. And the wrench maintained very good contact with the bolt, and the bolt finally broke at 667 inch-pounds. And the 12-point Proto performed much better than average, finally losing grip at 719.5 inch-pounds. And the Blue Point made it to 536.8 inch-pounds before rounding the bolt. And the 6-point SK refused to give up, finally breaking the bolt, reaching a peak torque of 663 inch-pounds. And half the wrenches met the goal of 660 inch-pounds before either the bolt breaking or the wrench losing grip. The Olsa, Wera, and SK outlasted the bolt at just over 660 inch-pounds. The amount of taper seemed to have a huge impact on how much surface area the wrench was able to cover and seemed to have an impact on the performance. Let's go ahead and repeat this test on the open end of the wrench, and this time I'll go ahead and remove the washer. And the GearWrench performed very well, finally rounding the bolt at 714.4 inch-pounds. And the Olsa also performed very well, making it to 675.9 inch-pounds before rounding the bolt. And the Jaeger gave up a little bit sooner than the GearWrench and the Olsa at 566.7 inch-pounds. And the Tekton made 2 attempts to outlast the bolt but finally slipped at 638.2 inch-pounds. And the DeWalt began to round the bolt on the first pass at 587.4 inch-pounds. The damage to the fastener was done, and the DeWalt slipped at 569 on the second attempt. And the Craftsman gave up a little bit sooner than average at 469.5 inch-pounds, or about 250 inch-pounds less than the GearWrench. And the Williams performed about average at 530.4 inch-pounds. With each test, it appears that the open end of the wrenches are stretching or expanding just before it rounds the bolt. Compared to the other brands, the Capri Tools performed below average at 489.3 inch-pounds. And the open end of the Greenlee seems to be built much more robust compared to some of the other brands. And the Greenlee finally rounded the bolt at 610 inch-pounds. And the Wera uses a much different design than all of the other brands, and it didn't work out too well for the Wera at only 404.4 inch-pounds. I messed up and I didn't get the Proto fully seated on the bolt, and the open end is just much more prone to stretching in this position. I subsequently damaged the wrench before I caught this mistake, so I'll go ahead and throw out the test results. And the Blue Point performed well in this test, finally slipping at 540.1 inch-pounds. I could feel the jaw stretch on all the brands except for the SK. And the bolt finally broke after reaching a peak torque of 683.7 inch-pounds. And the jaws on the open end of the SK are extremely hard. Several factors influence the open end performance of the wrenches, but the GearWrench lost grip at 714 inch-pounds. SK broke the bolt at 683 inch-pounds and showed no indication of jaw stretch. Also, Tekton and Greenlee also performed very well at over 600 inch-pounds. I put together a tester and will be using some pretty soft coupling nuts to see how much torque each wrench can handle before rounding the fastener or before the ratchet fails. With the entire 12-point box end making contact with the nut, the GearWrench broke before it rounded the nut at 329 pounds. And there's a very small amount of damage to the nut. And the Olsa claims that their wrenches are made of premium unbreakable steel. And the wrench broke at 514 pounds. In fairness, that's quite a bit of torque, and everything is going to bend or break at some point. And the Jetech seemed to be doing just fine, and then things went from happy to snappy at 226 pounds. Unfortunately, the internal ratcheting mechanism broke, so the Jetech has less than half the strength of the Olsa. And the Jaeger performed about the same as the GearWrench when the ratcheting mechanism broke at 321 pounds. The coupling nut is still in good shape. And the Tekton performed very close to the same as the Jetech with the ratcheting mechanism breaking at 224 pounds. And the DeWalt held on longer than most of the other brands, finally breaking at 368 pounds. The coupling nut is still in great shape. And the Craftsman broke at 415 pounds without any loud bangs or outward visible damage. The coupling nut also experienced quite a bit of damage. And the Williams performed about the same as the GearWrench and the Jaeger at 325 pounds. That makes my knuckles hurt every time I hear that sound. And the ratcheting gear fell off the Williams. And it's going to be almost impossible for a 6-point to round the nut. And the Capri wrench broke at 302 pounds, and the coupling nut looks as good as new. And the Greenlee held on for quite a while and experienced quite a bit of rotation before finally breaking. 371 pounds, which is just about the same as the DeWalt. And there's quite a bit of damage to the coupling nut. And the Wera made it to just about 400 pounds when the ratchet broke. Unfortunately, the ratchet gear is now stuck on the coupling nut. And the Proto made it to 341 pounds, which is just about the same as the GearWrench, Jaeger, and Williams. And there's just a small amount of damage to the coupling nut. And the snap-on Blue Point performed nearly the same as the Proto at 336 pounds before sparks began flying when the ratchet broke. Just a small amount of damage to the nut. And the 6-point SK is the heaviest wrench and is built like a tank. Even at around 500 pounds of weight, the SK is barely bending. And the metal on the ratchet finally broke at 531 pounds. The nut did experience some damage. The failure load of a wrench might be something to consider if there's ever a chance you'll need to push the ratchet to the limit. And the SK is very tough and came out on top at 531 pounds. The Olsa also performed well at 514, Craftsman 415, and Wera 396. Let's test the open-end strength of the wrenches using a piece of Allen key which is made of some very hard tool steel. The wrenches are going to either bend or break before the Allen key experiences damage. And the open end of the GearWrench seems very well designed, making it to 1,128 inch-pounds before giving up. And the open end of the wrench is almost stretched to 9/16. And the Olsa came up about 200 inch-pounds short of the GearWrench at 870 before letting go. And the wrench experienced quite a bit of damage. And the Jetech moves into the lead at 1,233 inch-pounds. However, the wrench did experience quite a bit of damage. And the Jaeger performed even better than the Jetech at 1,290 inch-pounds. And the Jaeger has even more damage than the Jetech. And the Tekton has plenty of open-end jaw strength, finally letting go at 1,173 inch-pounds. Just like the other brands, the jaws are pretty soft and experience quite a bit of bending. And the open end of the DeWalt isn't quite as wide as some of the other brands, and the DeWalt gave up early at 856 inch-pounds. And the Craftsman held on quite a bit longer than the DeWalt, but it finally slipped at 1,058 inch-pounds. There's quite a bit of damage to the Craftsman. And the Williams performed about the same as the Craftsman at 1,033 inch-pounds. And there's a lot of damage to the lower jaw on the Williams. And the Capri Tools almost matched the performance of the Williams at 1,018 inch-pounds. There's quite a bit of damage to both the upper and the lower jaws. And the Greenlee moves into the lead at 1,311 inch-pounds before giving up. Even with the high torque load, the Greenlee seems to have held up better than most of the other brands. And the Wera gave up a lot sooner than most of the other brands at 866 inch-pounds. Both the upper and the lower jaws experienced quite a bit of damage. And the Proto performed very close to average at 1,045 inch-pounds. Both the upper and the lower jaws experienced quite a bit of damage. And the Blue Point gave up a little bit sooner than most of the other brands at 945 inch-pounds. And there's a pretty big gouge in the lower jaw. And the SK has a much more compact outer diameter jaw compared to the competition. Unfortunately, the upper jaw in the SK broke at 836.8 inch-pounds. The jaws are made of some very hard steel and there's no visible gouges in the jaws. If you're looking for a wrench that can take the most abuse, the Greenlee came out on top at 1,311 inch-pounds. The Jaeger did almost as well at 1,290, Jetech 1,233, and Tekton 1,173 inch-pounds. If you're working in a tight space, the outer diameter of the box end can be an issue at times, and the Williams, Blue Point, and the SK are the most compact at 0.98 inches. The Wera and the Proto were right at 0.99. The outer diameter of the open end can also be an issue at times, and the SK has a huge advantage over the other brands with an outer diameter of only 0.97 inches. The Blue Point is 1.01, Williams 1.02, and Proto 1.06 inches. And the SK wrench came out on top with an average finish of 3.67. Considering the very affordable price, the GearWrench performed very well with an average finish of 4.5 and Tekton 5.17. If one throws out the last two tests, the failure load testing, the SK had an average finish of 1.75, and the GearWrench and Tekton also performed very well with an average finish of 3.25. At a price of $66, the SK seems way overpriced. However, it is the best wrench. On the other hand, you can buy an entire set of wrenches made by GearWrench for less than the price of one SK wrench. However, if I had to choose just one wrench, it would definitely be the Tekton. It seems like the best value when you consider performance as well as price. All the videos in this channel, including this one, are viewer suggested. So if you have a video idea, I hope you'll take time to leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. Please take care, and I look forward to next time.